Oop, forgot about that fly. Hey, everybody. Sorry I'm running a little late tonight. Work ran over. So yeah, just want to welcome everyone in tonight, and we're going to sit down. I think we have some new people. I definitely see Rick's on. Hi, Rick. And just wanted to sit there and say we're going to be tying the gurgler, and this is the one that everyone saw in the picture. It's a pretty simple pattern. It's a waking pattern. So when we talk about our topwater flies, we talk about poppers, we talk about divers. This is actually a fly that's going to wake, so it's not going to pop so much. Maybe when you're pulling it out of the water, it might. They kind of tend to make a little bit of noise then. But what it's really going to do is put a V wake going through the water. And so it's a little bit more subtle of a pattern going through the water. A little bit quieter, better pattern, start getting into low water or spooky fish, that sort of thing. Can definitely be an advantageous fly. Can also elicit some great strikes. One of the favorite ways I've fished it, it's actually almost on a swing. So it's kind of waking across the river, kind of coming, across the river when you're swinging like a streamer, and fish will come up and just crush it from time to time. It's not a guaranteed technique. So one thing I also want to point out, I am tying this based on the Gartside videos. There's a lot of different ways to tie this fly. And I literally got this from jackgartside.com. So I'm going to say, his fly, he probably is tying it correctly. But first thing I want to show you is an utter failure from that. I wanted to keep it on. I didn't cut it off the hook yet. So I wanted to show this. When you make your body too wide, it starts looking like this. So one of the things with this fly, it's foam, and so you've got to cut it. And I cut it based on what he had said, which was to cut it about 5/8 of an inch wide. And I was like, oh, it's a big hook. I'll tie it wide. Yeah, don't. I'll talk about why that's one thing I do change with this fly. But I just wanted to show everybody that, yeah, even I mess up, and this fly is going to get the good old razor blade to it after this because it needs it. Everything else looked great on the fly, but oh well. So start out with this fly, pretty simple. Actually tying on a different vise tonight. Grabbed a spare vise. So yeah, it's a Renzetti, but it's a cam lock one. It's actually my first rotary vise that I ever had. I think it's 20 years old. So really, fly, we're talking hook. That's the standard size, 1/0, 2, whatever I've been tying on for the last few weeks. I've got it right here. 1/0 mustad. I've been tying on it for the last few weeks. I'm getting low on them. I'm gonna have to order some. But really, this fly can be tied on everything from size 4. I mean, I've seen them smaller. I've just never been successful at tying them smaller. All the way up to 2/0, 3/0, 4/0. Tying on a longer shanked hook, tying on a shorter shanked hook. That rule is not really there. You don't have to have a specific hook, which is kind of one of the cool things with this fly. You can change things up and make it look a little bit different. Definitely a cool thing to do if you want. Go hop online, go look at some of the variations of this fly. This is one of the flies, like a clouser, that there's a million variations. And it can imitate everything from, what we're tying tonight looks like a bait fish swimming on the surface. I've seen like shrimp versions. I've seen ones that's supposed to look like a damselfly. Okay, yep. Brian's gonna be tying on a barbless fire hole. Yeah, pretty much this is a fly. Mice patterns. Yeah, it pretty much looks like anything that can be along the surface, just depending on your color and your size and all the other variables you put on. But the one I'm predominantly going to be tying tonight is going to be kind of based on based on a bait fish. So like almost every fly, start out putting thread onto hook. Don't know where all my scissors are. As everybody can tell if you saw my little comment, I'm disorganized tonight. There's my good scissors. So kind of been busy. Should have had all this cleaned up. Yeah, it's my fault. So thread onto hook, cover hook shank. Want to go back to basically about the bend of the hook, which on this hook is actually slightly before the barb. If your hook is different, do it differently. So I'm going to use good old bucktail. little bit of bucktail, maybe 2 pencils worth. We don't want much. This is not a situation where we're trying to, create a big giant tail. So standard rules apply. Pull out the long ones, right by the middle, pull out all the shorties. See, I got a couple. Yep. Like Brian said, classic guide flies. So probably should explain, I do tie a lot of guide flies. I've never been technically a guide in my life. I have spent time guiding, never called myself a guide. One of the big reasons why I like guide flies personally is I'm busy doing a lot of things. It actually, Rick, it literally is tied everything from a 4 to a 2-aught. The traditional hook on it is the Mustad 34007 or the 0011, if you remember what those numbers actually mean. Those are your traditional Mustad saltwater hooks. The 007 is the standard length like this. The 0011 is the 4x long, so it's got about this much more. It's got basically about another hook bend length on there. It's the 0011, I've seen it tied on that. I don't personally like it. Puts the hook really far back, but if you're going after like bluefish or something that's wanting to tail bite, might be a good option to use a longer shanked hook. I like a standard shanked hook. So with this fly, I'm going for, a little bit longer, body length and a half, or, hook length and a half, maybe 2. I got a couple long ones in there that are showing up really well on the camera that don't show up in my vision. So going for, basically hook shank and a half to 2 hook shanks long. Might be a reason why you want to have a little bit of a tail, a little bit longer hook to account for a tail biter. Just want to tie this in. So as you look, that's a pretty sparse tail. We're talking, deceiver sparse. We're talking, you can see the blue of my shirt through it. And that is definitely one thing with a lot of flies we got to think about is the fish is looking at it and it's got to look at it and see it as natural. Most bait fish are not solid, are not solidly colored. They are translucent to some extent. Get some big ones, they're not, but most of the bait fish that we imitate are going to be smaller. So next thing we're going to add in is a couple of strands of flash. And I've just got my hank of flash here. Choose whichever one you want. I'm going with silver tonight because I kind of feel like doing silver. As anybody ever has noticed, I really like white and silver. That happens to be, that and chartreuse are some of my favorite colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm just kind of getting it all straightened up because my hank is all kinds of messed up. And what I'm going to do, go ahead and put it on the top of the hook shank. And if you watch, I'm just doing a pinch. I'm going to do 2 wraps, 2 light wraps. Right now I could walk away. If phone goes off, I can walk away. That's fine. Now I'm going to actually pull these up. Let's see if I can get the cam turned. I'm going to even it out. I can still pull on it a little bit and get these more or less evened out. Drop it back down. Pull it over to, far side of the hook for you, near side to me. How I like to do it. Oop, getting a little close for my webcam. Put another wrap in there. Actually, we're going to put 2 in because I feel like it. And then we take the other side, pull it down, and what we're actually trying to do here is basically put the flash material down both sides. So if you look on both sides of the tail, that is, basically that is the technique that I use to put flash down both sides. I do know people who will tie in 2 different pieces of flash. I did that when I was younger. Had a great fly tyer, Captain Tommy Mattioli, teach me that trick. And it's one of those moments where you just kind of go, well, duh. Why didn't I think of that? But that's how it is, how it goes. So next thing we're going to want, actually I did forget one thing I wanted to show you guys. Everything else, you're going to hear a crash for a moment. So honestly, Brian, flash. That is, let's see, that is actually the Orvis sparkle hair is what I used. because I happen to have it with me. So it's the stuff that's kind of like Krennic is what I used, but standard flashaboo would be more traditional for this fly because this fly is not a modern fly. This fly, 80s, 70s, 80s was its time period where it came out. So we didn't have super cool modern materials that we've got. We've got a lot of things today that we didn't have back in the day. And being able to kind of play with them, that's cool. And I mean, some of the things that we use, use it. If not a big deal. You don't just use whatever flash you happen to have. Whichever one has got the color that you want. So you could use, you can use an olive flash on this if you wanted to. Be a cool effect. So one thing I wanted to show off was I talk about ordering craft foam. And there are different kinds of craft foam. So the one I got that's been cut up, that's your standard craft foam. I really wish on here it actually said what size it was or what width it is. But it's 1 millimeter. It's about 1 millimeter. It's pretty thin. So getting ready for this, I thought I'd be smart and order from Michael's online and to do pickup. And I ordered craft foam. Oops. That's 2 mil. So that's the kind of thing to think about. That is going to be unusable for this fly. Most flies. I've got some ideas to do with it, but unfortunately I can't use them for anything I'm doing right now. You might see some cool stuff coming out with this stuff in the near future. So pull out your 1 mil craft foam, commonly referred to as fly tying foam. You can get it at fly shops. You get the little 6-inch by 6-inch patch for $3-4, or you get the 9 by 12 for 89 cents. I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to go with the 9 by 12. Also, I've got options of many, many, many colors. If you can go into the craft store, which a lot of them aren't letting us in there right now, I get it. Order online. Just make sure you order the 1 mil, not the 2 mil like I did. So what I'm going to do is kind of do the standard, put it up onto the hook. And what I did, I don't know if it'll show up on the camera. You might be able to just pick it up. There's a little indentation. What that tells you is my hook gap. I want this fly to actually be slightly less than the hook gap. On this particular pattern, I have found that I know that traditionally it's supposed to be, 3/8 to 5/8 of an inch that wide foam. That's too wide in my opinion. Kind of creates it, wraps around a little too much. I'm going to take it, I'm going to cut it. Cut it as straight as you can. We know I'm not perfect. Yeah, I'm definitely not perfect. That's definitely not straight, even remotely. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to figure out kind of about two hook shanks. I want to do a little fold over, add a little extra, and I'm actually going to save this little square here. We will need that in the future, part of the fly. But one thing to do a quick little trim, kind of create a bit of a V. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're not grading you on it. Again, fly tying police. They're a little bit busy with everyone trying to learn a woolly bugger right now, so they're not going to come bother you. So now one thing we're going to do, we're going to wrap up almost to the front. We're going to go basically back to that, 1/3 back. I call it the clouds, the dumbbell eye spot. You guys keep seeing me give these talks and everything. You'll see I keep going back to these same spots. A lot of flies are based on the same things. So this material goes up on top, put your foam, tie it in. And one thing I didn't talk about was my thread. This is flat waxed. Use your flat waxed, use your 3/0. 6/0's getting a little bit thin. Definitely 8/0 is going to be a great way to snap thread and get very frustrated. So now, according to the website, you're supposed to do 5 wraps back. Okay, again, I don't follow rules really well. I was always a rule breaker. Well, actually, I really wasn't, but I keep telling myself that. So just basically wrap down, and I'm trying to keep some openness. If you look, trying to keep open wraps on there. I'm not trying to crush all of the foam down. I want to keep some in there because that foam that is not crushed is going to help give me some flotation. So next material, going in, grabbing my strung saddle hackles. that looking at the price that I paid for these, apparently, I've got many years ago. So I'm just grabbing one that I like the looks of. Again, this is a pack. As you look through it, if you see, this is not great saddles anymore. What this pack is now for me is exactly what I'm doing with it. This is all of my palmering saddles. So one thing you can do if you've got plenty of time on your hands, when you get a saddle hackle pack, have 2 boxes or 2 packages to put it in. Have your saddles that are for, your wings and your bodies that are really super pretty, and have your palmering ones that are really ugly. And you can do that. I know actually some professional tires, that's what they do. It helps save them time when they need to grab for a fly. They can just literally grab from a box. So now we're going to tie in. Don't worry about where you tie it in. Again, this is the whole top of this fly is going to get covered. So don't worry about it. Now we're going to do our palmering back. And now if you noticed, I'm still trying to keep as much of that foam so I get buoyancy. And I'm stopping basically back about, slightly before where I tied in. Now I'm going to take it and I'm going to wrap my saddle in. Try not to catch the saddle on the hook point and break it. I don't know if you guys could hear that in the audio, but I just caught it on the hook point and got very lucky. So I'm trying to do 5, 6, 7 wraps, something like that. Just enough to be able to get me up to the front and have a little bit of body in there. I don't want to get into this webby part, obviously. We all know rules of thumb. If it starts looking like maraboo, you don't want to be using that for palmering, at least not for this kind of a fly. I know there are some flies out west that actually do use it. But now we're just going to quick tie off. 3 or 4 as I hit the screen. Grab my scissors that are for cutting this. Now we're going to really get that wrapped down. I'm also putting down a good thread base, because when you look at the bottom of the fly right now, can't really see anything else but the hackle, and then you see this little spot up here. Well, think about it this way. The fish are going to be looking at it from the bottom. So I want to have that kind of covered up a bit, because they're going to be looking at that. Normally, I would actually have it flipped towards me so I could look. I'm actually looking at the camera in order to do it right now for you guys. So next thing, going to lick our fingers. Yeah, we know. Not always the coolest thing in the world to do, but and what we're trying to do is we're trying to get these hackles as laid down to the side as we can get them. You know what? Not all of them are going to listen. Kind of like my hair when I was a kid. I never could get my hair to go to the side because I usually have a couple that are sticking straight up. Now, it's pretty simple. Take that foam. We still got that piece of foam there. Oop, want to make sure our thread's in the right place before we do that. Fold it forward. Yeah, this fly is one of my favorites, but again, I don't always tie it perfectly. So, I made a mistake somewhere. I'm actually going to wrap back because I pulled that too tight. I'm looking at that going, that just doesn't look good. I want this to have that little bit of air pocket right there. Wasn't thinking. That's one of the perks of fly tying. So when you're not on a live stream, is you can make a mistake and nobody will know that you made the mistake. Unfortunately, I'm on a live stream. I can't get away with that. So now we have got this, kind of flathead wraps around. Now we want to do one thing to help get that head to stick up a little bit. Remember that square that I told everyone to save? Take it. One thing I like to do is cut it in half. So I have 2 squares now. So what I'm going to do take that piece, I'm going to put it behind, right halfway, kind of centered up right where my thread goes. Wrap that in. So next thing we do, make sure we get everything straight and centered. Find our whip finish tool. If you want a half hitch, good luck. This is one of those flies where a whip finish is definitely suggested. Because we're trying to, kind of be able to do this over top of a wide area. I don't know how many wraps that was. It looks like about 5, but I'm not going to worry too much about it because what I'm ready to do. So normally when we cut the thread, we're done with the fly, right? Not with this one. So what we want to do, we want to grab our Loctite super glue, put a dab right at the base. Don't need much. It's Loctite. It's good stuff. Traditionally, we all got the black gel. This is a gel that came in a gray. So want to get it, stick it up, make sure it's all centered up. I got to turn it towards me for a second. Sorry, guys, but get it all as centered up as you can. And this is one perk of the normal super glue. You don't have to hold it for as long. But there you go. Now, when you turn and look at it, see how it's kind of got an upward sloping face? That's going to help catch a little bit of the air. Air, water, same thing. It'll help catch a little bit of that water, but help catch the air going through. And that also makes it, look at how, that's pretty stiff now. So when you go to move it, it's going to do a little bit of a pop, but it's really going to be more of a wake fly. So what we're going to do is we're going to strip it real slow. We kind of want it to look like a bait fish that's swimming slowly across the surface, that's just kind of cruising along like, yeah, today's a good day. Today's one of those good days in life. About that time is when, a big old bass comes up underneath of it and makes it a bad day. So that would be, that's the basic gurgler. We can tie another one if y'all would like. I can do some other colors. I'm still going to use that gray foam because I do like this foam look. But so, like I said, it's a pretty simple fly. You look at it, it's a pretty simple pattern. It's a pretty quick pattern. And again, this is a great pattern for, hey, buddy calls you up, I'm going out tomorrow. We're going out tomorrow, let's go. And you look in your box and go, I don't have anything ready. So it's a great one. Brian says he's got streamer brush ready for the next time. So that's one thing you can do with this fly. It's kind of fun is you don't have to use hackle. You can use pretty much any underbody you want. I chose hackle for this one because I kind of just like the look of it. Also, hackle kind of, if you're in the saltwater world, can look a little bit like a shrimp. If I did this like in a brown, maybe with a little bit of pink through here, it looked like a shrimp going across the surface. Go down to like Charleston, South Carolina, go out, go up into the marshes and just watch redfish crush this thing. That is one of the cool things. And I will say, I love redfish on the fly for the same reason I love carp to take topwater. Their mouths are on the bottom of their head. So when you think about it, when they eat something, they got to put their whole head and most of their body out of the water. Okay, so Brian's going to post onto the Project Healing Waters Charlottesville Facebook page. If you got an opportunity to go look, we do put up, if you guys send us pictures from our tying sessions, we do put them up on there. I put one up earlier of playing around, getting ready for tonight. I did do a little bit of practice. I'll even show you the fly. I did a little guy. This is definitely, yeah, Jonathan, yeah, it does. Looks really shrimpy, and, it's one of those patterns that, like I said, anything that kind of moves across the surface, if you didn't put a tail on it, made it black, you could do, something like a big beetle or a cicada or something like that. This is one of those patterns that, the only rule of thumb with a gurgler is pretty simple. This foam part. That's the only real rule that I have ever seen with a gurgler is you've got to do that. Just like you think about a claudette, not a claudette, a clouser. Rule of thumb with a clouser is those dumbbell eyes and material tied on top and bottom. I've seen clousers tied with bucktail. I've seen clousers tied with Arctic fox. I've seen clousers tied with everything. So, yeah, it's definitely good on stripers. Caught many stripers on this fly. Used to use them a lot down around Hampton Roads back when I lived down there. So, one of my favorites for topwater stripers. Again, it was super simple. And at 4 o'clock when I'd get back from class in college, and I would be questioning, I'd be going out and have to leave at 5 and look at my box and go, uh-oh, I need some stuff for tonight. Sit down the vise, tie up 2 or 3 of those, and then pack up the car and head out. So I'm going to do another one. Well, I'm actually going to use a different body material this time. We're going to use a similar tail. I got to find my materials. I got too much out here. Been tying. So actually have been tying some flies. Been getting ready to be able to get out on the water. So I'm going to use same hook this time. I'm going to use chartreuse thread. Should kind of give an idea of color. So uni thread, which it's the only uni thread that I've got in my entire kit. I don't remember where I bought it or anything. I happened to see it and when I was grabbing stuff and said, that'll work for tonight. So as everyone from the Charlottesville chapter knows, I tend to be very much like that. I am not a picky material guy. Threads, I use whatever I've got. Half the time it's whatever's on the bobbin. That is why I have multiple bobbins though, so that I'm not grabbing different, not needing to change as often. So first material, good old chartreuse bucktail. Well-used bucktail. This one's getting a bit chewed up. So got a lot of bucktail in there. I cut too much. So I'm going to definitely pull out a lot of the underbody out of it. Figure out my tail length. When I wish I had Brian's little trash can. Tie in my tail. So this one, I'm not going to put any flash into, because what I'm going to use for an underbody will make up for that, more than make up for that. So wrap our thread forward, move materials around as I hit my vise. It's a nice vise, actually. Like I said, this is an older vise of mine. Has got the bobbin rest on it. I don't normally run that on my vices. So won't lie, I stole this vise from Dad. I stole it back from Dad. It was broken. He ordered parts for it. That's why I have two. So I'm going to take our piece, do our little, make a little divot. Just helps to guide us a bit, and I can hardly see that, but taking a guess at what length that I need. Need to only take a little bit off. So this is definitely something, if you were going to be tying a whole bunch of them and getting ready for a trip where you needed gurglers, if you were, going smallmouth fishing or whatnot. Actually, I'm going to show you something else cool with this. But if you're going out, you needed a bunch of them. This is one of those things that if you've got a like paper slicer, the ones that come down to, remember as a kid. Remember a kid at school? That works for cutting foam so well. It's a great way to be able to cut big strips. So we want to create that little bit of a triangle. And the reason why we create this triangle is as a tie-in point. So I don't think I mentioned that before, but it creates a tie-in point that is easier for you to catch with your thread. Tie it down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'll let Jack Gartside see that I did 7 instead of 5. Though I don't think he'd get too mad at me. So, material I'm going to use here is, again, shocker, it came from Orvis, but it's the old packaging color, is the mirror wrap. So this is a material similar to body braid, similar to, a lot of materials that are out there. And what this actually is, it's almost like a flashaboo that's already wrapped. So what it gives you is the ability to almost to Palmer flashaboo. And I've got a really junky end on this, so I'm going to trim that off. I don't need all of it. We're going to tie this in. I know on the Facebook page, I kind of mentioned about possibly dubbing flashaboo. Yeah, I decided that was not going to be a possible one. That's something I used to be able to do, and I can't anymore. I've fallen out of practice. So basically just tie that in, do our couple of wraps forward, create this little part, and now we're going to wrap this brush, get it to lay back, which is sometimes the fun part. What I have found with this material is if you pull it tight, it's inevitably going to try to roll forward on you. So you don't want to pull this super tight as you're wrapping. If you watch as I pull tight, it moves forward. If I don't, it kind of will move back for me. Work for me a little bit. This stuff is unruly. This stuff, not my favorite material in the world to work with, but it creates a really cool effect. You see this a lot on big game flies, on like the big predator patterns. And they use this as like 3 or 4 wraps underneath of a body to help create that flash and help give some of this, spiky effect. So somebody else can count how many I've done. Somebody wants to comment in the video afterwards when this gets posted to YouTube, how many wraps I just did, that'd be awesome so I can know. Yep, Brian's talking about the difference between a thread core and a metal core. Metal cores are easier. I really have still not gotten into using them too much, though I have a setup to actually be able to make them, but I just never got into it. It's that's a thread cord one. The metal cores are a little bit more pricey. This is cheap stuff, which a lot of my materials are. I don't use expensive materials typically. So I'm going to wrap it down, and if you notice, I'm pulling back with it. And if you looked at this fly, reality, if I didn't have this foam in here, you could fish that. It'd work. It'd work well. I can almost guarantee it would work well. So now, you got a couple that are just annoying me, and I'm just going to pull them out. So we want to take it and we want to split this down the middle. That's one of the keys, is splitting it. And basically what you're doing is you're just telling it where you want it to go, instead of when you pull the foam over, letting it decide. Don't let the material control you. You control the material. Of course, I say that all the time, and it doesn't always work. It's kind of like dealing with kids. So take it, pull it forward. We got that little bit of a open air pocket. That open air pocket is useful for a lot of things. Now, if you look, I ended up just a little bit shorter on that than I was intending. It's fine. Still going to put it in. Now, one thing I'm going to do that's a little bit different this time. Remember I used gray foam the last time? I still got that little thing. One thing you could use, if you've got like an orange foam or like a yellow foam, you could actually use this little spot that we're using to kind of help pick up the front end. We'd use that as a hot spot. Fish won't be able to see it, but we will. And hopefully we'll be able to make it so we can see this fly and pick it up when it's out, in the water, just to give you a little bit better opportunity to be able to see it. So I'm going to tie this in. Neighbor just drove by. If anybody's ever seen how I tie a beetle pattern, that little hot spot should look familiar. So that's something that actually I do with my beetle patterns. Yep. Gotta love uni thread. So with that, we've got a very unruly looking fly. But at the same time, imagine that going through the water. That's going to create a bunch of disturbance. So we will need to take our little bit of our Loctite. Just a wee bit of Loctite. Don't need much. It is crazy strong. Actually, wouldn't that be crazy glue? It's crazy strong, crazy fast. So now you look, I've got, of course, I'm not quite centered up as well as I'd like, but too late now. Got this, and it's got that little bit of green. Now, it's interesting, it's on camera, that looks like a frog green. This is a chartreuse. It's almost the exact same color as the tail. And look at how the camera is picking it up is different. That's something that always intrigues me, how cameras do that. So, but there is, another one. So that's 2 for the night. Pretty simple fly, like I've said. And this guy kind of being, the color he is and everything, kind of froggy. Back to coughing. A little bit froggy, but, he would be one. I'd go take that out to a bass pond and go throw. All this flash in here, that's going to attract visually. There's a little bit of, a little bit of a head. It's going to attract, with the sound. It's not going to plunk down. One thing about this fly, it's really light, and especially when you put all this material in there, it's not going to go onto the water. It's going to go real soft, real quiet, which is why I talk about using it, when you're in, summertime, bass fishing on a river. Water's really low, super clear, gin clear water. And those fish are, they hear anything abnormal, they run. We all kind of talk about, you getting that good plunk when they come running to it. I can tell you, you get gin clear water, that won't, they're going to run away. So that would be fly number 2. Got to keep track of where I'm putting all my flies. And now, bonus fly. We're actually going to do 3 tonight. I want to do one more, and I want to do it smaller. I am going to tie this on an intruder hook. So if anybody remembers what an intruder hook is, they're a different shaped hook. Designed for an intruder style fly, which actually puts this almost on some like really heavy, it's actually a Kevlar thread. But if you look, it's a super short shank, big gap, and then the eye is upturned. That's actually there for the way that you put the hook on, because the fly, you don't actually tie material onto the hook in an intruder style fly. But I don't follow rules really well, so actually I like these hooks for this because they've got that really big gap, that really short shank. I'm actually going to tie up a bluegill one. So adjust the vise. Try not to break the cam again. We all know that cam is like that. Now I am going to change out my thread. For this fly, I don't want the uni, it's super heavy. I am going to a gel spun thread. Good luck with me getting this through the bobbin. So yeah, I don't use a bobbin threader. I suck it through. Basically, I just wet the end of the thread, get it started in the end of the bobbin, and then I just suck it through. So don't have too much thread though, because you end up with thread in your lungs, and well, that just doesn't end well outdoes it. What's it? I don't cough all day and then I get onto these things and I start coughing. So I'm going to tie this again in chartreuse, only because I got chartreuse right in front of me and I was intending on it because, as you can tell, I practiced a little bit. I did play around a little bit before we started. Where is my... Actually, there's my tail material. So for my tail material, I'm actually going to grab something that a lot of people don't have in their boxes. It's fine if you don't have it. It's just I've got it, and I like to use it. Arctic fox. And why I like this material, you'll see in a minute, super fluffy. In the water, it poofs out. It stays out. It's not like maraboo that goes down, and then when you stop, it kind of comes up. This stays out for the most part. The other thing is it's really buoyant. I mean, it's an Arctic fox. They've got a lot of air trapped in their hair. And I mean, if you look at this stuff, it is super dense. So, and I'll show you what makes it so dense before I tie this in. So grab out, little pinch, don't need much. We got a little tiny hook. We got a material that likes to use up a lot of space. So see how there's like a really fine section? Grab it by there. And basically you want to just start trying to get out a lot of this underhair. Arctic fox has a lot of underhair. I'd hope they would. They live in really cold climates. So, and it doesn't like to come out. So you do your best. End up with a lot of fluff all over the place. So, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit shorter of a tail this time. Now, why do I want a short tail? I'm tying this for bluegill. And anybody who's ever fished for bluegill knows they like to tail bite. That is one reason why you will rarely see me put like legs onto a bluegill fly, because they're going to try to eat that. And they're going to grab that. And I'm going to set the hook thinking that they actually grab my fly. Then I'm going to be disappointed when I don't hook them. You know, just kind of try to keep my disappointment to a minimum when I'm fishing, because I've got a tendency to do it to myself. So it's a really tiny little tail, but this is, you know, a little bit longer than the body. Tie it in, but if you notice, when I tie this down, it disappears. That's the cool thing with this material. I actually use this for my shad flies. And my shad flies, you know, we're in the middle of shad season in the James River down in Richmond. Right now, the James River is blown out. Well, right now it's not, but by the weekend it's going to be. They're calling for over an inch of rain on Thursday, which basically means the James River will be blown out. That's fine. It's what it is. It's fine for me. So I got out this year. So I tied that material in. Now, where did I put my foam down? I need to get my foam cut. Funny thing is, I actually already know how wide I want it because I'm going to use what I did before. I'm going to cut it. I am going to cut this one a little long because I want to. So it's my fly. I can do whatever I want. Now this one, I'm only going to go back probably halfway. This hook shank is so short, a third of the way is half the way. This is I don't know if I can explain and show. I mean, this is a standard set of, you know, of your whip finish tool. It's a really short shanked hook. In fact, I made my triangle too long. That's how short of a shank this is. Remember, we want to try to keep as much of that foam there and being buoyant. The next material, fluorescent chartreuse estaz. Yeah, no, I'm keeping a theme tonight. I'm really liking the bright colors. So kind of similar to that last one. That last material is sort of like estaz, but only one-sided and really long. This is estaz, plain old, I've seen it called cactus chenille. Cactus chenille is a little bit different, but we're just going to do a couple of wraps of this. Not much. That was what, 2 wraps? 3 wraps? Yeah, that's a short shanked hook. Yep, grabbing with my left hand and doing it. It was unwrapping on me. That was fun. So, wrap on. Now, estaz does not lay down the way that other materials do. I don't even try. I just want to kind of get it to lay down. Wrap in a few times, and one thing I don't have, because when I was cutting off I didn't have any extra, I gotta do a little tiny cut onto my foam and give myself my little block. You can use a different color foam. This is chartreuse. This thing doesn't need any other color. I want to lay it down so that I've got a decent amount right there so I can help pull that up. The other thing to think about this little foam block right here, that's helping to give even more flotation to this fly. And let's first make sure that we've got centered up the way we want it. Sorry, I got it turned the other way, but unfortunately I can't. So we're kind of centered up. I know it doesn't really look like it, but it is actually centered on there. And we're just going to put a little drop of glue right onto that foam. Now, I don't expect that drop of glue to live forever if I'm bluegill fishing. With any luck, I'm going to go 60, 70 bluegill, you know, and that drop of foam will have gone away a long time ago. There we go, and we whip finish, because I should have done that first. See, guys, even I make mistakes. So, little bluegill version. This guy is less than an inch long. In reality, this actually is coming up on the screen looking a whole lot bigger than what it is. My thumb's an inch, so it's maybe just a slight bit more than an inch long. Yeah, I actually have measured my thumb. But here's one of the things about the intruder hook that is both good and bad. If you look, that eye is completely covered by the foam. That eye is also helping to give the foam some shape. You can still bend the foam back and get to it. You just got to bend it back and get in there with your thread, or with your thread, with your monofilament, your leader. But that gives you a little bluegill fly. And it's a size 4, so you're really going to be kind of limiting yourself to the bigger bluegill. Wouldn't go out on a pond with 3-inch bluegill and throw this to it. But if you got a pond like I used to have up in Charlottesville with, hand-sized bluegill consistently, this guy was deadly on that pond. The other thing is that it's a small little morsel. Bass will come up and grab it. And because of the fact that we've got a pretty decent little hook gap on here, you don't have really anything covering up that hook. That's got a pretty good hook gap. You can definitely get into a decent fish with this. So this is definitely a great little fly. And again, this is one of those ones, it does have a tendency to spin in the air because it is foam. So again, don't fish this on 5X, 3X at your lightest. 2X, 2X would be even better. I like to fish heavier leaders than a lot of people do in fly fishing because honestly, unless I'm trout fishing with nymphs or dries, I'm fishing streamers or poppers or something like that, fish aren't really all that spooky. They're not leader shy that much. And they'll come up and they'll hit it. And the heavier the leader I got, the better chance I got of getting that fish in. Because not just from breaking off, but also one thing that we never talk about in fly fishing is that leader stretches. We go to set the hook and that leader is going to stretch. And 5X is going to stretch that much. 0X is going to stretch that much. Obviously, you hook a 100-pound fish, 0X is going to stretch that much. and probably blow up. But, that's part of the game. But we want to use the heaviest leader we can get away with when fishing anything, topwater, fishing our topwater flies, fishing our half and half, our clouser, our CK nymph, or not nymph, our bait fish, anything like that. We want to fish heavy. We want to fish heavy leaders. It's this game is not ultralight fishing where we're trying to catch the biggest fish on the lightest tackle. At least not for me. I want to get that fish, and I also want to get it in quickly because a lot of times we're fishing, warmer waters. Right now, they don't care. You can fight them for a while; they won't bother them. But when we're fishing warmer waters for a lot of our species, especially midsummer, even for largemouth, they're stressed. I want to get them in as quickly as I can and get that stress over with. Also, the quicker I can get them in, the less chance they got of shaking the hook, of me losing them. I got a chance to be able to get that picture for Instagram because, that's the most important thing in the world is being able to put the picture of the fish you just caught up on Instagram. So, yeah, I'm kind of laughing about that because, no, it's not really, but I still do it, so I can't say anything. But just wanted to kind of cover the gurgler, Gartside Gurgler, known as the gurgler. There's a million variations. I tied 3 tonight that all are related yet different. You could tie this without any underbody if you wanted to. You could tie this with rabbit strip for a tail and make a mouse. You could tie this, as we kind of talked about, do a little pinkish, do a pinkish underbody with like a tan overbody, with a tan foam. That creates a really good shrimp pattern. If you're fishing in water with shrimp, you're fishing, in saltwater, definitely a good option. Oh yeah, you can fish dry dropper. The beauty of the little bluegill one, it does have a pretty good flotation to it. So you could fish, a size 8 hare's ear underneath of it, like beadhead. Wouldn't go tungsten, I'd go brass. But you could fish a size 8 beadhead, hare's ear underneath of it. You could fish a CK nymph. Because, yeah, you can always fish a CK nymph. But you could fish something like that. You could dry dropper this without a problem. I would always tie off the bend of the hook. That's the way I like to do my dry droppers. I know some people like to do a really long tag end when they tie on the hook. Just not the way that I learned. Not the way that I found to keep this from getting tangled. When I tie off on the bend of the hook, if I get a really bad tangle, I just cut it off. I could spend hours trying to untangle it, or I could just cut it, take the leader, take that extra material, put it in my pocket, bring it home. Don't throw it on the side of the river. Because remember, monofilament takes about 1,000 years to break down. So if you throw leader material on the side of the river or throw it in the river, it's never going to go away. Not in our lifetime, not in your kid's lifetime, not in your grandkid's lifetime. Just something to think about. Always take your leader home with you. That's my little PSA for the day. But you could, dry dropper with this. The bigger ones, you could. Not sure what I would dry dropper underneath of something like this because I'm going to be fishing this more for bass. I guess I could put like a really lightweight Helgramite nymph underneath for smallmouth. Might work. I've never tried it, never thought about that. But I do know of people who have done, like a deceiver kind of a thing behind these in saltwater and use this almost like a popping cork. If you know of the technique of using a popping cork with a shrimp in saltwater, you doing that and kind of getting a little bit of a pop because you've got a pretty solid front, helping use that to attract the fish over, and then they'll go after the other bait. But the other fly, you use a deceiver, you could use a really lightweight clouser, do like a bead chain eye clouser. But if you take it something like that, I've seen with popping corks fish come up and grab the popping cork. What do you do when there's no hook in the popping cork? Can't hook them. So with something like this, they come up, grab my popping cork, they're grabbing a hook, and I got a chance to be able to hook them and land them. Kind of one of the things about dry dropper that I do like to use as much as I can is that's one reason why in trout fishing I like to use that dry dropper too, is now my indicator has a hook in it. And how many times have all of us been out on a stream throwing a thingamabobber, let's say, because they love thingamabobbers for some reason. And a trout will rise to your thingamabobber and totally forgo that nymph that you spent 10 minutes trying to decide which one you should put on. Yeah, they like to do that. So I've seen it. I always laugh. You just got to sit there and chuckle and go, obviously these fish are smarter than I am. So, they're eating a plastic bubble. But yeah, I mean, just kind of talking back to this fly. This is a great pattern. Go out there for the Healing Waters Charlottesville chapter. When we get back out, go out to Adventure Farm Pond. This guy, I know crushes out there. And I think, Steve, you have fished this out there. Is this what took that monster I seem to remember you pulling out of there? But get out on your local ponds. Rivers, we got a lot of rain coming in this weekend, guys. I'm looking at that forecast going, ugh. Central Virginia is going to get hit again. Lakes are going to be good. Bass should be up on beds, so you might want to lay off them a little bit, but the bluegill, if they're up on beds, I got no problem targeting them. Put this over top of a bluegill bed and have a little fun. I'll go out there with a 5-weight and just hook some big bluegill. So I just want to do that. I want to say thank you, everybody, for showing up tonight, and would love to have more people on. Looks like we're going to be doing this for a little while longer. Brian's got some stuff in the works for next week. I've already got the fly after that planned. Going to be doing another topwater fly and another foam fly. After that, we don't know what we're going to be doing, but hopefully we'll see everybody on and get to see some pictures of some flies later on tonight. Remember to you can just send them, you can email them to Brian or email them to me on the page. Hope everyone had a great night. Have a great night.